Pretty good. Good evening. Lance here from Denneman's Real Estate with our Facebook Live. I'm here tonight with Hayden, and we're here to discuss how to become a real estate agent and is it for you. Good to see you again, Hayden.
Yeah, good to have you back after a little bit of a hernia operation.
Yeah, hernia operation stood me out for last week's Facebook Live, but so I did watch yourself and Amy, and you did well. So I'm surprised I got invited back.
We battled on without you.
That's good. Yeah, no, I'm all patched up. I'm good to go.
Yeah, good to hear.
Tonight we've got some information and some questions and some topics and points that we'd like to think will help you decide whether or not real estate's for you. So I'll start off by asking Hayden a few of these questions and delve a little bit deeper. So Hayden, what are the different, if I want to get into real estate, what are the different roles that are available to me? It's not necessarily a case of me becoming a real estate agent, selling agent that is. What other roles are out there?
Yep. So yes, it's not all sales based. Obviously, there's a lot of great roles within the industry that could potentially be a gateway to where you might have a goal of ending up. But to name a few, there's positions such as the administrator, whether that be on reception or sales based, or even there's roles such as property management assistant and property managers, as in a fully fledged property manager. There's also the likes of sales associates as well within the industry, which generally speaking will work under or with a sales agent. And that can be a great little leg into the industry as well.
And I suppose they're all a bit different too, aren't they? So it may be that you think, well, sales isn't for me, I don't want to be a salesperson as such, but you can still have a very enjoyable career, can't you, and have a very rewarding career. It doesn't necessarily have to be selling or even property management. You can be doing aspects of that background work, can't you, that can be quite rewarding and satisfying, and still have your hand in without being necessarily that front person, can't you, really?
That's right. Yeah, different skill sets obviously are more inclined to be better at different roles. So you can still absolutely be a key person of the team and not necessarily be a property manager or a sales agent. There's some really great roles that are 110% necessary and help the team out hugely.
Yeah, and I suppose it leads in, doesn't it? I mean, we've had staff here over the last 15, 20, 25 years who started in reception and gone all the way right through to sales agents, or gone through to property management, or become trust account managers, and all sorts of things. So there's a lot of different avenues out there, isn't there? So
many ways to skin a cat.
Yes, this is it. So now, I suppose that said, so how do I become, what qualifications do I need to become a real estate agent? I can't just turn up and start selling or renting property legally anyway. So what qualifications do I need?
Yep, to make that next step. So essentially, there's a few different training organisations out there. The one that I personally did and that I think many of the staff here have done has been through the REAQ. In my opinion, that's the best one to do. It's the most detailed that I'm aware of. Essentially it's a 5-day course, and there's a fair bit of assessment behind that.
Right.
So the 5 days sounds pretty simple. It's
all the assessments
probably the assessment after that. That's the hard part.
So you lodge those assessments, they get marked, and then all going well, if you pass and you get that learning qualification, you then push that over to the Office of Fair Trading. Is that how it works?
That's right. Yes, you get your your ticket essentially through the REAQ or one of the registered training organisations, and once you've completed that and ticked off the necessary boxes, you then shoot that across to the Office of Fair Trading. And providing you haven't committed any huge crimes or been bankrupt or anything like that, I think there's a few little criteria you have to check out with them. But providing you haven't done anything too crazy, you should
get your certificate.
Should be
which
right.
Would allow you to. What does that allow you to do? Does that allow you to run an agency?
No. So that wouldn't allow you to run an agency if you just did the registration certificate as a salesperson. I should say salesperson certificate. However, if you did want to take that next step and run the office or start your own agency, that would be some extra modules that you'd have to do for your full license is what that's called.
Like the ones I did 30 years ago.
A little bit similar, might have been a bit more complex nowadays. So.
Auctioneer, just getting off the track a little bit, but if I want to be an auctioneer, there's another qualification that goes with that as well. That's another
course as well.
So having a salesperson certificate or even a real estate agent's license doesn't necessarily allow you to auction, does it? So
That's right. Yeah, you have to do another course for that.
right, okay,
Yeah.
very good. So on a personal level, so I've got my qualification, hopefully Office Fair Trade, and got my certificate. So on a personal level, what attributes do you think would serve a person best to succeed in the industry?
Yep. Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think well, you've got to like people. It's a people business. The houses, you don't talk to the houses.
No.
Well, you can try, but no, it is very much a people-orientated business. So if you don't like people or helping people or dealing with people, you're probably in a little bit of trouble. So that'd be the main ticket item there. Aside from that, I think you've got to be a good communicator with your clients and with the people, your customers that you're dealing with, which is another key point. And you've probably got to be fairly regimented with your time, with your day, because it can be quite a grey area in terms of what your tasks should be or could be throughout the course of a day. So if you're not regimented with your time, then you may not be as effective as you possibly could be.
Potentially drift out and not get those things done that you need. So self-driven.
Excuse me, that's right. Yep.
We've got the coughs, haven't we? So,
That's right, yeah.
So on a positive note, in regard to what would you see as the positives? So if here I am selling real estate, what are the positives of the job?
Yep. Well, it's all pretty positive. But I think the main positives would be that you do get to meet a variety of different people, mostly very lovely people that come from a variety of different backgrounds, different experiences in life. So you do get to hear a lot of great stories as well.
You do.
And the history of the properties and the homes and that sort of thing. So that's probably one of the major benefits, the major positives. Aside from that, it can be quite financially rewarding as well. If you're prepared to work hard and you're good at what you do, it can be quite financially rewarding in that sense. And there is a little bit of flexibility in terms of your working hours and that sort of thing.
I suppose it tends to grow too, doesn't it? Once you get on a roll and you get going, you tend to get those referrals and recommendations, don't you, from if you've done a good job at least.
That's right.
So you get those referrals and recommendations from other clients that have been satisfied with what you've done.
That's right.
So not dwelling on it too much, but let's be honest about everything and get it out there so people understand what the whole role would involve.
Yep.
What are the negatives?
Negative side, there's no negatives.
No negatives.
No
negatives.
No.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
No, I think probably the obvious one would be the hours. Sometimes you're working quite lengthy hours at any given point in time. So, it is quite flexible, like I said before. It can be quite flexible, but there are some times where you do need to knuckle down and work some fairly long hours, including weekends, Saturdays and Sundays and that sort of thing, and after hours when people are available as well. So that's probably, the main ticket item anyway that people would find potentially challenging.
Yeah, I suppose, particularly so if you've got a young family or something like that, it can work, can't it? But it's just something, it's another dimension to it that needs to be factored into the whole role, isn't it?
Other thing to try and manage, that's right.
Yeah. So
then I guess, it can be quite hard to start in the industry as well. If you are a new agent to the industry and you haven't sort of got many contacts within the area, it can be quite challenging to get that first couple of sales or couple of listings. So that's probably another big challenge for people.
That's a good point, I suppose. Where on that point, I mean, you can't, as an agent, whether you've been in it 2 months or 20 years, I mean, you can't necessarily bring up and order some more stocking, can you? Some more houses or apartments to sell or land for sale when you're insured. So as a new agent, particularly, I mean, where am I going to get listings from, or what mythology and what things would you do to set yourself up to have a pipeline of listings?
Yep, I think it's a great question as well. I think, first of all, if you weren't inclined to work under someone or with someone as a sales associate, which can be a great avenue, I think, to get further your skill set and see what activities they're doing to sort of nurture their relationships and build their business. If you weren't prepared to do that and you went out day one as a new agent in the industry, a couple of things. I think the main one, you've got to have an overarching aim to build relationships and build genuine relationships with people within your community, and just look to help them in any way you can. providing them with information, anything that any tips, advice, anything like that you can possibly provide, without looking necessarily for anything in return. But you've got to be sort of building those and nurturing those relationships as well. So, you could be joining local clubs,
Rotary and things like that. Just for example, I suppose like Rotary, and if you're on the kids at the school PNC, and I suppose the local bowls club, and there's a lot of things you can be joining, isn't there?
A lot of different avenues, that's right. Sorry, excuse me, I'll just have a quick sip of water.
That's all right.
So I can try and stop coughing.
It is water, isn't it? All right, so having said that, now what would you recommend? So I've become an agent, I've got a little bit of traction, I'm getting a few listings and things are going okay.
Yeah.
But what would you recommend to keep that momentum up and to keep my skills up and my skill set up, and really just to be doing on a continual basis to make sure I become the best agent I possibly can? What tips would you have?
Yep, so a couple of things I think, big one is CPD, so making sure that you're up with current legislation. So we're always, at training events and that sort of thing, you're always making sure we're pretty all over that and on top of that, which is great. You could always, go to the big conferences every year, such as, I know the REQ run the REQ Summit, which is a great event. And there's another conference called the Australian Real Estate Conference as well, which is generally held once a year at the Gold Coast. That's a really good event with both Bain as well. And there's some world-class speakers there that aren't necessarily all real estate focused, but you do get some tips and tricks off them, whether it be for general life skills or negotiating. We've heard from a FBI negotiator, I think, last year.
We did, actually, yeah, very interesting.
Which was very interesting, and although not real estate focused, there was a lot of tiebacks there in terms of managing emotion and that type of thing, which I found personally really interesting. So
pretty good to if we end up in a siege, I suppose. It's probably good information to have up your sleeve, isn't it? So
that's right. I'm not quite sure we learned that much to be able to handle a siege, but
I felt confident.
Did you?
Yeah, I was okay after that.
I know who to call then if I'm ever in a siege.
Thought I could handle it. So Hayden, I suppose in summary, in your case, you've been in a number of years now.
Yep.
I mean, what do you see as the best part of the role, the job, coming to work every day and doing what you do? I mean, what's the best part of the job?
Why do I walk in with a smile on my face every day?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, because you guys are here.
Yeah, that's right.
And aside from that, I think, for me, I think the big one is meeting the amount of people you do, and you genuinely become part of a family when you're dealing with someone's house. You know their kids, the family pet, and you do genuinely become part of the family. So I think having those long-lasting relationships with people for me is quite personally rewarding. And I think, I don't think there's anything that can beat walking in, presenting an offer that completely blows the socks off your client, and understanding exactly what that's going to mean for them financially and what that's then going to unlock or enable them to do. I find very, very rewarding.
Well, that's it. Well, how satisfying is it? I suppose you really feel like you know your keep, don't you? And you really feel like they've hired you for the job to do that.
Yep.
To get the best outcome and to actually achieve it, and for the folks, the clients, to recognise that, and then to walk away so satisfied. I suppose that's what it's about, isn't it? It's just about that side of it. So it's not all about money, as much as important as money is, no doubt about it. But that's really what a lot of it's about, isn't it?
That's right. I think everyone's different, and everyone has different reasons why they do their job, obviously. But I think if you are going to be working the long hours that this job does require, I think you've got to have a genuine job satisfaction there as well, which I think for me comes out of helping those people and seeing what it means to them as well.
No, that makes sense. So I suppose in summary, what I think you've categorised there is really that it's a job all about people. It's not about necessarily selling, as a lot of properties essentially really will sell themselves. If you're well organised and you know the ins and outs of what that property has to offer, that's terrific, and that's what you need to know as a salesperson. But it's all about people, isn't it? It's not about selling or the hard sell or pushing something onto someone, is it? It's about having that knowledge base, knowing what the product or the property is all about, most certainly. But at the end of the day, being able to gain people's trust and their rapport, and in a genuine, humble way, help them, whether they be the buyer, the seller, the tenant or whoever they may be in the transaction. So
that's it. Everyone's looking to get from A to Z, and it's facilitating that process and helping everyone get there, both buyer and seller, and always looking after your client.
So focus on the relationships more than necessarily getting too excited about you. It's not all about selling techniques, is it? It's about
There's certainly you've got to have the right skill sets and that sort of thing, but and skills are of the utmost importance. But I think definitely if you can build those relationships with both sellers and buyers, then you'll be away.
You'll be well suited.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, thanks for joining us at Denhamans Facebook Live this evening. I hope that has been able to shed some information there that you may have found useful for your decision. Terrific industry, so if you do go down that line and you dive in and you have a go, I mean, probably the best thing you can do, if you get in and it's in your blood and you feel like you'd like to do it, I'd suggest that you just get in there and do your best, and I'd dare say you probably do well. So all the best, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.